We've raised the minimum wage. We've created thousands of good paying jobs. We've protected reproductive freedom, and we have stood up and protected workers' rights. We've made sure that we've invested in education, and we've done all of that while passing 7 consecutive balanced budgets, and we're working on our 8th. That's what's possible when you dream big and unite as Democrats. Don't let anybody tell you that we don't know how to get things done. Because here in Illinois, we have the blueprint on how to get things done. And I'm going to take that blueprint all the way to Washington, D.C.
Sounds like a threat from Juliana Stratton looking to replace Dick Durbin in the United States Senate as he is retiring. The Illinois blueprint, don't let anyone tell you that they don't know how to get things done. Here to tell us his thoughts on the Illinois Democrat blueprint getting things done, State Senator Jason Plummer, who is the Illinois' 55th District Senator. Senator Plummer, thank you I hope you've taken a nap. You had a late night last night, at least the General Assembly did. We thank you for being on the show with us today.
Yeah, it's great to be on, Annie. I appreciate you having me.
You bet. Can you just give us, what do you want the people in the 55th District that are listening here in our listening area, what do people know about what went down in the General Assembly last night?
What went down last night in the General Assembly was their blueprint, right? The same blueprint that's led to outmigration of families and businesses. It's led to the highest unemployment rate in the Midwest, the 4th highest in the country, and the blueprint that's led to Missouri. I know you have a lot of listeners on the Missouri side, having economic growth over the last 6 years at twice the rate of Illinois. I believe Missouri is about 10.8%. Illinois is about half that. Indiana is even a little bit slightly higher. So they are doing things, but those are not good things for the people of the state.
Yeah, and I think that if you go from person to person in the state of Illinois, at least down southern Illinois, southwestern Illinois, where you and I reside, it doesn't seem like anyone's happy. You know, it's not like people are like, come to Illinois. We've got some really great things going on. A lot of people tolerate it. And I guess in the state of Illinois, the alternative to voting blue is just not tenable for people. Last night, my understanding is maybe, $900 million in new, as the Democrats called them, revenue enhancements. What are the people in Illinois going to be under now that this legislation has passed?
So I've gone through this process, as you know, several years. This year it felt a little bit different, and it really felt different, I think, because there was so much consternation on the other side of the aisle. Oftentimes they're generally aligned and they kind of jam through their stuff. I didn't walk off the Senate floor until about 4:45 in the morning this morning. And it was amazing to me. There was stuff they were posting on the board, to vote on at the very end, that they just started pulling off because it was clear that the governor's office, the House, and the Senate were not aligned. So what we did do was we passed a $56 billion budget, which set a new record in state spending. As you alluded to, they claim it's balanced, and we haven't had a balanced budget. I just heard your previous speaker say 7 years in a row. If our budgets were balanced, how come our borrowing and our debt continues to grow up?
How does she say that? How does the Illinois Senate candidate say 7? What are they tweaking to make that a statement?
Well, they just gaslight people. Let's take this budget, right? So $56 billion in spending. And they claim that they have $56 billion in revenue to match it, i.e. it's a balanced budget. But the reality is a lot of that revenue is based on actuarial expectations that we know are not realistic. It's based upon what you said, revenue enhancements, i.e. tax and fee increases. Since he came into office, Governor Pritzker has raised taxes on fees on Illinoisans at least 50, I believe more than 60 times now. But the problem is, right, so we put these tax increases into the budget, and they say, it's going to generate X amount of dollars. They never generate what they say that they're going to generate. And so we're always short money at the end of the year. So the budget's not balanced. It's a violation of state statute, and the way that they continue to get away with it, and people like Juliana Stratton or who's never really done anything is sitting there, saying this stuff. It's very offensive to the people in Illinois who are dealing with out of control utility bills, out of control property taxes, and frankly, the highest tax burden in the country. And folks in Springfield just continue to spend.
Senator Plummer speaking with us. He represents Illinois' 55th Senate District in Springfield. You mentioned two things. I've heard the energy crisis referred to by you and several of your colleagues that I was watching very early this morning when I woke up. You guys were, looks like, giving us the debrief outside the Capitol with the sun rising in the background. And like I said, hopefully taking a nap. The energy crisis, I think people are still, I just got my bill, or I got my notification that my energy costs are going to go up once again. But then also property taxes. These are two of the main things that I think every single Illinois, red, blue, and anywhere in between or on the outside is saying, this is problematic for me. What did the Democrats do or say to address either of those issues for Illinois residents last night?
Well, I mean, look, you heard Juliana Stratton, right? I listened to the proponents of the budget speak on the floor, and it's like we're looking at two different documents. The only thing I know is what I'm saying is grounded in fact. It's grounded in data. The reality is budgets like the one that was passed in the wee hours of the morning when everyone else is asleep are the type of things that lead to higher and higher property taxes, right? We continue to force unfunded mandates on locals. We continue to take away local control. We continue to dip into money that should be going to the locals. And the locals have to make up for these shortfalls that are the cause of the state by raising property taxes, right? If we funded education properly, if we distributed funds to local municipalities like we used to do in the state of Illinois, if we quit rating these different funds, we could have relief, with property taxes. You mentioned utility bills. That's a whole nother conversation. That is CEJA and the various trailer bills. We have been on that like crazy. We have warned them. We've done everything we can. We took the cheapest, safest, most reliable grid in the country, and we've turned it into a complete catastrophe. It's interesting now. You're starting to hear the other side, which is largely elected officials from up north, start to complain about it a little bit because the Ameren territory got hit first, right? Well, now you got ComEd and the folks up north starting to feel the pinch as well. In fact, as of 12:01 a.m. this morning, there's another increase. And so right now, folks in Chicagoland are paying the highest energy bills they've ever paid.
Yeah.
Ameren, we're up 3 times in some markets. Everyone's up at least 2 times. So, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. We have the highest cell phone tax in the country. We can just go down the list. And so this budget, it wasn't responsible. It raises taxes. And then, and I don't want to belabor the point on the budget, but then if you look at their priorities, how you spend your money says a lot. Forget how much they're spending when you're not funding the developmentally disabled community to the degree that you should be funding them. When you're rating that's another thing we didn't even touch on. When you're rating the gas tax money to try to band-aid over this budget, that shows a lack of priority. When you have bonding authority that is twice what the governor requested, that means you're creating you're funding pet projects for politicians on the backs of future generations. The governor requested I think it was about $766 million in bonding authority, Annie. But in the final budget, we put in $1.4 billion. That's $600 million, give or take, gap. That is all borrowed money that is going into Democrat legislative districts for pet projects. And your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren are going to be paying for that. So it just is very irresponsible, very frustrating. And a lot of Illinoisans just they just don't know what to do anymore.
I got 2 more topic questions for you here. We're speaking with Illinois' 55th District Senator Jason Plummer, right over the other side of the river on the east side. I just want to know quickly the mechanics of getting this type of a budget through. Republicans in Springfield, super minority in the House, super minority in the Senate. J.B. Pritzker, far left progressive governor who really actually prefers to be president over governor of Illinois as he runs for his 3rd term as the governor, but also shows up at No Kings rallies. I digress. How are Republicans presented with the opportunity to influence, being in the super minority? How are Republicans? I'm represented by an Illinois Republican in the Senate and in the House. How are they informed and included in the budget process that culminates in what was passed last night?
Well, we're not included. And it's not just a Republican thing. Republicans are completely shut out of the process. But I would also tell you, Annie, most of the Democrat legislators are shut out of the process too. They just know to keep their mouth shut and stand in line and see what they get. The reality is the governor's office and a few of the leadership members of the House and the Senate designed this budget. They keep it behind closed doors. We do appropriations hearings. We do a lot of appropriation committees. The input from those things don't influence the budget. They know what they're going to do.
When did you see, Senator, when did you see the budget that you had to vote on last night?
So they dropped a budget early yesterday, but we knew that it was not the real budget because they do that so they can say, oh no, you've seen the budget for a day. But then in the wee hours, for a day, 3,500 pages. But then what they did in the wee hours of the morning was they amended it and added another $864 million in additional spending. And we've got staff and legislators working hard to identify that stuff, but it is not a transparent process. There's a reason why it happens at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. And most of your legislators are shut out of it. And until the voters demand more of the governor and demand more of certain elected officials, that process isn't going to change. It's very insulting to the people of the state.
Yeah, it feels very insulting every day. Illinois State Senator Jason Plummer with us. Last question, last topic I want to cover with you. And I just really want we're from Southern Illinois, 30,000 foot overview of what the Chicago Bears, maybe the Indiana Bears are going to, what is happening there? And the biggest question I think that our listeners and your constituents probably have is a penny of our tax dollar revenue going to go to help keep the Chicago Bears in Cook County somewhere?
Well, as of right now, the answer to that would be no, but that's largely because we don't know what's going to happen yet. The governor had, I would say 3 really, really important, and there was a lot of important consequential legislation, but 3 really important things, 2 of which he said or all 3 of which he actually said were huge priorities of his: the Bears, the budget, and the Build Illinois plan. Right. And I think what we're talking about here shows the lack of leadership from Governor Pritzker, because his number one legislative agenda item all spring was the Build Illinois plan. And that died over the weekend because the governor couldn't get it across the finish line. Then you take the budget. We talked about that. That did not go well for anyone involved. And so now the Bears. As you know, the Bears project went through several different iterations, including tacking on mega projects and star bonds and just a lot of different things, trying to, I believe, find enough ways to get enough legislators on board. What we ultimately saw, again, in the wee hours of the morning in the Senate last night was a very stripped down Bears bill that removed most all of the other, the mega projects, the star bonds, all that stuff. And it was very focused on the Bears. And it passed the Senate. We'll get into the details on that in a second, but it died in the House. And so we left Springfield without a successful piece of legislation for the Bears. And so what I am seeing and what I'm hearing and what we talked about on the floor yesterday was that, Illinois legislators are supposedly going to try to work with the Bears over the summer and figure something out. But Indiana's calling, and we don't know what's going to happen, but there's absolutely no way that any nickel from downstate Illinois should go to fund a project like that, especially as we continue to see our capital dollars and our road money rated for Chicago purposes as it is.
Should or would? Is it possible?
Is what possible? That
Southern Illinois taxpayers send money to keep the Bears in Chicago? I don't know the answer to that at all. Is it possible?
It's absolutely possible. But we have no idea what the legislation is going to look like. Yeah. If there is going to be legislation, I mean, as of right now, there is no Bears legislation.
Okay.
It died yesterday. So for something to come back, we would have to have a whole new package, and nobody knows what would be in that package. So is it possible? Yes, it's Illinois. It's absolutely possible. But I think that they would be hard-pressed to get any legislator from south of Chicago on board with something like that.
Oh, man. Well, you should lobby to get the Bears to move down here into your district. we just put a stadium over here. I don't care where they play.
You know what? Before we worry about building professional sports stadiums and stuff, I'd rather focus on just addressing the property tax needs of my constituents, not the property tax needs of of a multi-billion-dollar NFL franchise.
Can't say it better than that. Senator Plummer, thank you for the time today. Thank you for your hard work late into the evening last night and being willing to come share it with us today. We're grateful for it.
Yeah, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Take care. Bye-bye.